Turn it off and turn it on. It's okay. No, no, communicating. I know what I mean, yeah. Do his magic.
Okay, we are now live to YouTube.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Economic Expansion Committee. We have our position recruitment process mapping today in the discussions, and I guess I need an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Seconder?
I'll second, Mr. Chair. Craig Erickson Feddersen.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary by nay. Okay, we're moving. Is there any conflict of interest? No conflict of interest. We're going to move right on. So this is a topic near and dear to all of our hearts here. I would ask our CEO, John Smith, maybe you can start us off.
No trouble. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the members present today. We really appreciate you taking the time for this important subject. As you know, we had a joint meeting in the spring, Mr. Chair, and we're going to, this is kind of a continuation of that. We had shared the report with everyone. We had shared it with the communities, the CAOs, stakeholders widely in terms of that. People have had an opportunity to review and read and understand the report. There are some that have had questions on the report, and we have an upcoming meeting on that in the next little while to discuss that with the consultant. So for today's purpose, primarily what will happen is Amanda is going to our economic development coordinator. She was key to helping get all of this off the ground, and we're going to have her walk us through a presentation, and it will lead us to having a discussion around next steps. In the report, the Stiletto was very clear on, there is a path forward here. There's a lot of good work happening. We should recognize that good work, and also to that, really the number one piece and point is all around collaboration and working together at the end of the day. So at that point, Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Amanda Foy, our Economic Development Coordinator, for a presentation for the members.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to take a minute to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so as John mentioned, this meeting is a follow-up to the joint meeting that the committee held in the spring, in March of 2025, when we discussed physician recruitment with a representative from the Department of Health. Since then, the physician recruitment process map was conducted by Stiletto Consulting and presented to the board at the July 28th forum. We're going to do a high-level run-through of what the findings and the recommendations are from that report. And then the goal of this committee meeting is to get some direction moving forward. So with that, we'll get started. So local governance reform in 2023 significantly impacted the responsibilities of the 12 service commissions in the province. These expanded mandated services included economic development and community development. When the CRC board developed their strategic plan, some priorities under community development were to identify local needs and priorities, as well as share best practices for physician recruitment and healthcare initiatives. So the combination of this mandate from the province and the priorities identified by the CRC board led to this scan of the current physician recruitment process for the region. And as I mentioned, this presentation is done in hopes that we'll get some recommendations and some action for moving forward. Okay, so the purpose of the project was to map the physician recruitment process. This initiative aimed to provide a comprehensive view of the current recruitment landscape, identify key stakeholders and process gaps, and highlight opportunities for system-wide coordination. More specifically, the 4 objectives of this report was to map the physician recruitment process, clarify the roles of the key stakeholders, analyze the barriers and bottlenecks, and recommend practical strategies. The methodology used in order to conduct the report was in 4 different stages. The first stage was material collection and review, where Stiletto reviewed existing policies, procedures, recruitment strategies, planning documents, along with secondary research of comparative case studies with other jurisdictions. The next step was the process map itself, where a comprehensive end-to-end process map was developed to chart physician recruitment activities, actors, decision-making points, and so on from initial contact to right up to the end of integration into the community. Step 3 was the stakeholder outreach. So all of your communities would have been reached out to. Structured interviews and surveys were used to gather information from stakeholders, including municipal officials, healthcare administrators, regulatory representatives, and so on. These interactions gathered perspectives of people involved in recruitment and provided additional detail about the process. Finally, the 4th step was the gap analysis and recommendations. Strengths and weaknesses of the current process were assessed and recommendations were developed to guide system-wide improvements. And if all of you have had a chance to go through the report and the appendices, you'll find a lot of the details about this methodology in the appendices, down to the surveys that were given to the municipalities. So that information is all there. Also, if anyone, John, if you want to jump in at any point, or if anyone has questions, please just let me know. I won't be upset to be interrupted. Okay, so the next is just an image of the 8 stages in the recruitment process that were identified, all the way from the first identification of needs and vacancies, all the way to the retention and support of physicians ongoing once they arrive. The gaps identified will likely not come as a shock to many of us. Just read through those. So the first one would be system fragmentation and role ambiguity, where this is essentially parallel efforts without shared leadership or coordination. We're all familiar with that. Physician integration and retention challenges. So that's weak supports for housing, family, community integration. That's another challenge. Reactive vacancy post recruitment. So a lack of strategic planning and forecasting. Lack of data tracking and sharing. No shared metrics or learning the infrastructure. And then community candidate misalignment finally. So moving forward from that, the key challenges that were identified, also identified areas for action. Some of these areas for action relating to each gap were identified and led to a list of 9 recommendations. So the areas of action led to them giving us a list of the 9 recommendations that you'll see in the report. I don't have them listed on the screen, but I'll just read through them. So develop a standardized onboarding checklist and welcome package, creating a wish list for Horizon Health, conducting a rapid asset and barrier scan in each community, launching a centralized regional recruitment dashboard. That's the big one for us. Formalize a spousal employment and community integration partnership. Develop and share regional communication materials, advocate for a regional physician navigator, align with provincial workforce planning and forecasting, and to co-invest in community-based infrastructure. So, you know, this is oops, there we go. So that's kind of a collection of areas of action, recommendations. They're all varying levels of accessibility and timeframes. They can't all be done right away, but it's just kind of a general idea of what we want moving forward. The report identified 4 immediate steps that we can do right away. And that's what we're on track to talk about today. So the first one is share and validate the findings. That was done, as we said, on July 28th. We shared the report over the last month or so. We've been circulating the report to all the communities, all the stakeholders, Horizon Health, New Brunswick Medical Society, everyone that's kind of involved. So we've got that out of the way. Step number 2 is to convene a regional working session. So that's bringing together key actors, including Horizon Health, municipal leads, clinic managers, integration service providers, and so on, to co-develop an implementation roadmap. Once that's finished, we can identify quick wins through that process and actions with broad impact. And moving forward from that, design monitoring and evaluation framework. So having said that, that's kind of where we lead off in this committee, or with the 2 committees, I should say. So we're looking for direction moving forward. As I say, step 1 is finished already, and step 2 is convene a regional working session. So we'd like some kind of direction, and we're opening the floor to discussion around that now. John, is there anything you'd like to add?
Mr. Chair, if I may, just before we open it to discussion, maybe Amanda, I'll ask you to take down the one of the rooms so I can see if people have questions.
Okay.
Just wanted to say, Mr. Chair, that we as staff are recommending convening a regional working session as the next step. I believe it'd be prudent to engage Stiletto, who did the report, for us to assist us in that. And this would be a fairly robust meeting. It would be held here in the capital region. It would be with key stakeholders, key partners, and influencers on that. And to add some backdrop to that, we had shared our report with many, and I know the province is continuously improving how they're working on this file, and it's a very important file. I've been invited along with the other CEOs in the province. I just want to be in complete transparency here, along with the other CEOs of the province and senior level, senior civil servants, to a retaining, recruiting, and strengthening New Brunswick health workforce. And that's that's at the end of November, on the November 27th. And I just wanted to say that we sent out our report. The province is convening meetings on this. Other areas are talking about how important this is, as you said in your opening remarks, Mr. Chair. So our thing is following that, bringing this back to the board. I did receive a proposal. I asked Stiletto for a proposal on that, and it's well within our budget means under the economic expansion and community development portfolio to be able to help coordinate this. It is a large undertaking to have, but we'd be looking at a fairly large group of people. That would be for organization, goal and objective development. It would also help us with coming out with our, looking at achievable targets, facilitation, and then a report to follow afterward. So that would be staff's recommendation. So Mr. Chair, I'll open that up to you, sir.
Okay, I can give you a recommendation right off the bat. Is I've had communication with 2 nurse practitioners that wanted to come to our area, and I reached out to Horizon and some of the people that we spoke to through CRSC, and they were going to get right back to me. And it's been now about a month and a half to 2 months. So as far as retention goes, we maybe should work on recruitment, because 2-month delay in getting back to us, and cancel the meeting twice, and I've lost one, but I still got one on the hook. We'll see how it goes, but that's never going to work. But anyway, sorry for that interjection. That's just my own frustration. But
Mr. Chair, if I might, just to jump in there, that we would be looking at having some conversations around process and everything at the regional forum in terms of that, to bring that to fruition and bring the people, much like we do, not to compare apples and oranges, but in our public safety forum process, when people come in and the RCMP are sitting, and other service providers are air emergency responders are sitting right before you and we're having that very honest discussion. I think that would be a way to have some of that conversation be flushed out.
Well, that's great. I can actually bring them right to the meeting if you want them there. But anyway, let's go to, is there any questions for anybody?
Director Erickson has his hand
Yeah.
up there.
Great, sorry, I didn't.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Was the report presented today circulated to the committee prior to this meeting?
Director Erickson, or sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll take that if you're okay with it.
Yeah,
We distributed it to the communities, to the CAOs, and it was distributed to the community, or to the committee in anticipation of this meeting, Director Erickson.
Amanda's report?
Not Amanda's report, no,
That's what I'm talking about.
the physician recruitment report, yes, but not the presentation today. No, we can circulate that with you following the meeting, yes.
I would certainly appreciate it, especially if we're to make decisions on the basis of which the report presents, in this meeting. I'd like to be able to read it and think about it ahead of time. So that would be great. Thank you. That's all I have at this time.
okay, that's a good point. And yeah, we should be endeavor to get that out in front so that we know what we're looking at. Is there further questions?
Bob, Director Simpson has a question there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. First of all of these people that we would like to recruit are paid by the province. But the Department of Health, I don't see around the table. In Nakwik Millville, the deputy mayor is deeply involved in recruitment. And I was speaking with him today, and also the mayor. The mayor has not heard from Stiletto in preparation for this report. The deputy mayor has not heard from Stiletto, and neither has the CAO. And had they talked to the CAO, she would have steered them to the deputy mayor, who is uniquely and tightly involved with recruitment. And in talking with him today, he said, I wonder how long it would take if Edmundston or Fredericton or any of the larger hospitals, if they managed to get contact from a vascular surgeon, how long would it take to clear the Department of Health? And he finds, in his experience in the past in Nakwik at the clinic there, that the Department of Health is a big roadblock to making quick decisions. Now, you just had one where you had to wait 2 months and you still don't have a decision on nurse practitioners. And I think this misses the boat on the Department of Health's role, because I mean, they're the biggest organization that's responsible for health in the province, but they're not here. And to me, I've looked at a lot of consultants' reports, and this looks quite typical of a consultant report. And I think we have to look much farther outside the box if we're going to solve this problem, because this problem is across the country, and we're going to have to be different in some fashion. Now, just in the last few days, I heard of a small city in British Columbia who lost their last doctor, so they changed it altogether, and the doctors will now work for the city. And they developed an office that looks after all the back office work for the doctors who work for that city. And it makes it a lot easier, takes a lot of responsibility and so on from the doctors. Now, mind you, they pay them pretty well in British Columbia, but nevertheless, it's outside the box. In Yellowknife, in today's news, they had about 20 shifts that were on. They had no doctor available for the summer months and into September. So what they did was they put it out for auction, and docs would come and say, I'll come for this much money. And so the person doing the hiring had to look for the right people to fill these spaces, to fill these shifts. And that's the way they had to do it. So it seems to be all about the money as usual, but we've got to look farther outside the box than this report suggests.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have success.
Well, I think that that's all very valid points, and I believe that there are major communities, the Fredericton, St. John's, and those major centers are in Moncton, say. That model that they presented to us seems to might be a very good solution for them. In the rural New Brunswick, I agree with you 100% that it doesn't work really, and our problem is that when they shut down our hospitals and clinics that we had in rural, where do they go? Well, they go to those major centers now, plugging them up. And if we can't figure out how to get local care back into the rural system, we might as well just forget about having healthcare anywhere, and because it's going to be plugged everywhere. So my biggest issue is when I talk to Horizon about these nurse practitioners, which would cause a lot of strain and relief here in our local area. It was almost as if, look, that's not your role. Don't worry about it. Just tell us the names and we'll deal with it. Well, the last time I did that, it was great. They instantly that got dismissed and they were hired elsewhere. So we're not looking for that. We're looking to be involved. We're putting up money. We're putting up time and effort. And I believe that we either get everybody at the table and have one direction, or we're wasting our time, to be quite honestly. So thanks for that. CEO John?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to the members, so the idea of convening a regional forum would be to have some meetings ahead of time, work with the folks around the table, the committees, the board, hone in what we want to ask, what are those things that we want to come out of that meeting, have the right players in the room and start to set a path forward. Some have suggested in the past that we have appointed a couple of members or appoint a couple of members from the board to a subcommittee of the groups, and maybe even the two chairs of these two groups to have maybe a quarterly meeting with Horizon, with the Department of Health and other officials there. The challenge is to ensure that we don't have too many around the table. I know that sounds terrible in some ways, but the reality is we have to have tables where we can have conversations and have the right leadership to carry the questions and bring back the answers. And I think, there's opportunities there. There's opportunities to work with the groups differently. And what I mean by that, the physician recruitment elements, to Member Simpson's point about having the department around the table and having the right people there. We need them at the table, and I think that's the conversation that we have to have with them. There's a lot of good recruitment and retention happening. Our challenge is we're focused and reactive, as the report says, on the need and the potential of people leaving, and we've got to stop reacting and get proactive in what we can do. And what the report says at its core essence is that if we all work together, we have the firepower to change that. We have the ability to change that. And I think they're correct. And I just think that we need to bring the region together, but take our time and get that right stuff. Hear the stories, Mr. Chair, that you're talking about, what Member Simpson was talking about, what others will be talking about. Bring that right group to the table, and how do we have that conversation? Then what are those outcomes that come out of that? And how do we continue? This is a long-term process. This isn't something that's going to be solved in a couple of months, but it's something we can start to vision how we want it solved together, working on behalf of the region to bring the right players together. So sorry for that long-winded kind of answer, Mr. Chair, but I think we need to have those conversations.
Yeah, I see your hand, Director Erickson, but I would like to comment on that. Is that I also read a lot of reports, and And I'm not good at mixing a whole bunch of words. And when I hear comments like good recruitment and good things happening, I actually like to hear what the meat and potatoes of the good is. And I don't have that same warm fuzzy feeling inside. I see nothing good happening. So and that it's broke. So I would like to actually see what are the good things and how does it go? And so that's probably why I might not be the best for that committee because I I apologize in advance. But Director Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That may be one of the reasons why you're best suited to be on that committee as well. However, that's not the issue I want to speak to. I want to speak to CEO Smith's comment about good governance and how this can best be structured. And I would quickly point out that one of the elements of Stiletto I don't think highlighted enough is that we're not the employer of record for any of these people we're talking about. And until we get the employer of record to be a co-chair of whatever decision-making body forms in order to help address this issue, the province will not be on board in an appropriate way. And this is not my first multi-jurisdictional policy issue or attempt to solve it. And recently, the mayor's task force on homelessness and those issues was structured in just that way, with co-chairs representing the province and the municipal sector, so that ministers could sit around the table who can actually compel action and actually compel, proper reporting and proper answers. And unless we get to a level where we're constituting a committee like that, I don't think we're going to do anything more significant than what I do when I try to tell my neighbor what they ought to put in their pool for pool noodles to play with. It's not my responsibility to keep his pool safe. He has no desire to necessarily pay attention to what I say. It's nice when I get to use his pool. But seriously, the employer of jurisdiction has to be at this table while we're discussing these so we can get into the meat and potatoes of the good stuff and figure out what the real challenges are on the hard stuff so we can start working together.
Okay, thank you. Yes, CEO.
Mr. Chair, I couldn't agree with Member Erickson's comments any more if I tried. I agree wholeheartedly. I think they're right on point. And that's why we need to take that time to develop this process to where we get around that table so that we know clearly what is it that we want coming out of that meeting? Who do we want at the table? Who do we want beside us? Who do we want across from us? And that's what we really have to do. And that's what we're really recommending today is get to work on convening that, pan the communities, and have that conversation about what is it that we truly need. And it'll mostly come through, I would suspect, the directors and senior level at the communities. But we do need to have that. We need to have that vision, and in the recommendation of what we're asking there today, in that, or the recommendation of, and working with the facilitator that, with the company that did the report, they're not shrinking violets in a room. I'll give them credit. They don't mind asking hard questions, and we can ask those hard questions. We just need a good facilitator that understands the current landscape, have them in there with us. They can bring those people to the table, and then, talk about, that will bring the municipal, the healthcare, and the community partners to develop, a practical process moving forward. And so that we look at that. So if that's having the deputy mayor in Naquick Millville, and that means having, I don't know, a CAO in some community, or maybe it's the mayor, one of the councilors, or one of the directors of our board, whatever that is, let's do it and do it right. Take our time, build it, put it together, and come together. And from there, we have a reason to understand how things are developed, because in this vision of what we have, it would be, as we said, those key people at the table. So for Horizon, Vitalité plays a different kind of role. Horizon normally acts on their behalf in our region. We got to have the right groups around, whether it be the New Brunswick Medical Society, whether it even be the New Brunswick Medical Education Foundation, whether we have, the Department of Health there, not just some in the Department of Health, but we also need their recruitment team. If you remember, Jennifer, that reported back to us, they have a recruitment team. We need to understand it. We need to know what's going on. We need to be able to talk about it, but we also need to be able to engage as well with it. So that would be my take, Mr. Chair.
I would think that something that would help us all more than any of these reports or anything is a roadmap. How do we get a doctor? We don't have any idea. How do we get one? We got a doctor. How do we get him licensed? Okay, and where do we sit on the priority list? I know that in my community, I make them do a priority list, and then we knock off the triage. We just basically triage everything. So anything that has a terrible outcome, we do it first. Anything after that, and then we do everything else after that. So, like to me, all I would strip this whole thing down and say, this is what we want to accomplish, and this is what we can accomplish. And you said this is a long process, so what can we accomplish next week? What can we accomplish next year? What can we accomplish the year after, or where do we think this is going? Because, I don't know, it seems like that, all I get to do in this job is read reports, but,
Well, oh,
yeah, please.
Dr. Nicklin, if I may, just in retort to that, I think you said, what can we do? Well, we can make a recommendation to the board through our committee report that this is the outcome. Then we can sit down as a group again and come together and talk about that roadmap. We do have a process in here that they talk about, but it's to get the people, again, to Member Erickson's point, get the right people around the table and find out where those bottlenecks are and move through those and develop that process for our region. We all live here. We all have a leadership role in here. That's all the people that are on this call today, the people that are in this room today. We need to make sure that we're out there doing things and changing things. But again, I think we got to convene the right people. So the first step for heading out today, I would say is, let's, if we can get a consensus to look at convening a meeting and working with a group, take that to the board, get that approved, and then come back and maybe look at, I don't know if it's whether it's surveying our board or surveying someone, in terms of that, what is it that is your key number one concern? And we go out and we do this. So I think we can do that. We've talked to a lot of communities, a lot of groups, a lot of stakeholders through this process. We're not going to hit them all. Unfortunately, we can't. But we will certainly try to do what we can to make sure that the voices of the region are heard, and then try to convene that together. I'm a big believer in that. If we take the information that we have today and we share that information, that through education and information, we can change that process, and we can change the view moving forward as well, sir.
Okay. Is there any further questions or comments? Anybody?
I just want to say, Mr. Chair, I hope that the Department of Health is well represented, if not the top number 2. And because the Minister of Health, if there's anyone in the province who should understand our frustration, it should be him. He should understand it and be able to act.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point, and that obviously this group that our CEO would be suggesting would be to identify the players that are around the table first, I would assume, and then we move forward from there.
Yes, and Mr. Chair, if I may, the report has been shared with the minister in his office, several of the members of cabinet, MLAs, that type of thing. So we've shared it. It's out there.
Okay. All right. So I guess you're looking for our next steps. I guess we've been kind of talking about it. Is there any recommendation that we want to make to the staff? Pretty quiet.
Don't everyone speak at once, I guess, and Mr. Chair, would it be the consensus of the group convened here today, the joint committee meeting, to move forward with a report to the board with a recommendation to convene a meeting? I would suspect this, it'll take a little bit of time, given everybody's schedules, to get together around the table, but to put something together here that we can have a very fulsome morning or full day, whatever it ends up being, but have that regional roundtable together.
Yeah. Anybody have any issues with that?
That would be including the province.
Yeah, oh, yes. Full partnership, yeah.
Why don't we just see what the province's reaction to an invitation is before we start pretending that we can set the table and pick the menu?
How could we attempt that first, CEO?
Well, Mr. Chair, not to be contrary to a wise opinion, I give Member Erickson credit on that. I think what we need to do is build the momentum on this and convene a larger meeting and then invite, know who we want to invite, bring them to the table, but know that we have a game plan going into that meeting. So lay the foundation, do the work, have the meeting. And I think it has to happen in that way. If I were to reach out to the province today, I'll give you an example. Myself and the team here are organizing some meetings in November already around with several members of the province or several cabinet ministers. And I had staff visiting me here today going, okay, well, we need to know well in advance, what do you want to talk about? What is it that we're going to, what are you bringing to the table? What do you want us to, what are we addressing? Who's the audience? What are we, what is it that we're trying to solve? So I suspect I would get the same thing if we invite, the province. We got to know, well, who do we want at the province, from the province, and what is our target, and what are the things that we want to talk about? We have to give them a list. It's kind of invite me in cold and saying, well, we want, I want to know and I want to know. I'm not trying to defend the province. I'm just saying we owe it to ourselves to run a very professionally well-managed, organized meeting so that we come out feeling that we know that we've gotten the things that we want out of the meeting. Or at least, at the very least, articulated our concerns, our issues, and we learned something within it, and we have a path forward.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that approach for the beginning, but once we have our roadmap kind of laid out, if the province isn't going to come play ball or get in the ballpark, I think that we're wasting our time, to be quite honest. But I do agree that we can certainly have the meeting and create the roadmap and say this is what our ask is. But if they just want to show up on a white horse and pretend to solve the day, I don't. If they're not going to be part of the solution, it's going to be just another problem.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think we'll have a willing partner. This is a big issue. It's certainly a big issue in the capital. I think we're all trying to change the narrative and trying to get to a place where we have positive outcomes. And I too have been, like Member Simpson, reading about the community in BC. It was a creative idea in terms of that, where the municipality hired the physicians, but there's a lot of caveats to it. So I think we need to stay focused, stay vigilant, and not just to have a conversation about what's wrong, but how do we solve the issues moving forward? How do we help? Our role would be the collaborator of that, to be able to articulate the concerns and the issues that are raised with us. And then how do we sit with the right partners, and how do we make it an ongoing conversation? If I could draw an analogy, Mr. Chair, I think most people, whether it be economic development or tourism in the early days, I was getting calls, what are they doing? What am I getting? What are we having? How are we doing it? Today, I have a lot less phone calls because we hired tourism. We went with the professional team. Ignite, we went with the professional team on economic development. And we've got to be that professional team for our region and work with the teams that are in place and move that marker in the direction that we need to move them. I'm going to use the royal we here. I'm not an elected official, but you folks as elected officials represent a large population base in the province of New Brunswick. We have a lot of clout at the table. We have a big voice. We got to make sure our voice is heard, understood, and we're collaborative. And how do we come out of there working together so that we don't have further problems? I think that what we need is to really delve deep into that and have build that positive relationship and build a positive outcomes moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, in hearing all that, you're a very patient man, much more patient than I, but, and I appreciate that. So I would be prepared to say that we could move forward with that if everybody feels in that fashion. Would we make a motion to that, or do we just give you a direction to do that, or how do you want to do that?
We need direction from the committee to do that, from the joint committee meeting, and then we'll take it to the board, present it at the board meeting, and then come
And
back,
then make a motion.
and then
Yeah.
start the process, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So is everybody good with that process?
Yep.
We're not great.
Yep.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Not really, because I don't really know what process is right now. Like, there's no document in front of me saying the recommended motion from staff is blank.
Yeah.
That is how I like to make decisions, consideration of motions prior to a meeting being joined. You know, this is not the barns on fire kind of emergency meeting where we've got to rush out and throw some water on it. You know, we need to get some of these things right. If we just want a motion to, free ourselves of the obligation of oversight and task staff to develop something more concrete and bring it back for a fuller conversation of the board, that's appropriate too. But I'm not going to pretend that these groups in a joint meeting have had any oversight on something that we haven't seen yet.
Right.
So, I'm happy to give CEO Smith and staff, the direction to develop the roadmap as they imagine it, to bring forward to the board for another discussion and conversation. That may be the best way to move forward, given where we are today. And I'd make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I don't see anything wrong with that either. I think that gives us a path moving forward in the interim until we could get the data back to us. So if that's your motion, then I need.
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
you may want to ask Director Hayward his question first.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Oh, look at that, his hand is up there. So, sorry about that. Go ahead, Director Hayward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing I would like to put to the group, and I don't disagree with any of the statements that were made, but at this time, is there anyone in this group or on this call that has any specific next steps or specific outcomes they would like to see come from the process? I don't believe we're in a position to give any significant direction at this point in time, but even if we can map some of those specific steps or outcomes that we feel need to be in place outside of bringing the province on board, is there anything from this group? And I will be the first to say I do not have an answer at this point in time for this, but I want to put it out to the group. Are there any of those steps or outcomes that we really need to see in place? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I think that Director Erickson's motion would actually bring that into consideration, because you would be able to forward your information to the CEO and staff that are putting together this kind of roadmap. So as it came up, we wouldn't be under the gun right now to come up with, well, we want this, but at the same point in time, it could be sent in and put in motion after you had a chance to talk to your councils and other people. So. Okay, so we have we still have a motion on the floor. Does anyone want to read here?
Motion?
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, we don't necessarily make motions at the committee. We would be getting consensus.
So this is
just
direction then.
Direction for staff. So,
Okay.
I'd like you to try to, if you could, put it succinctly into a box for us so that we could take the appropriate action if we could, so.
Well, we're gonna ask Director Erickson to do that right now.
I'm not sure I've got the documents in front of me that allow me that kind of specificity. Sorry. Happy if you're willing to proceed on the basis of consensus, but if we don't need a motion, we don't need a box either, so.
No. So I guess, Mr. Chair, if I may, would the consensus be to direct staff to undertake, I guess, an information seeking exercise with respect to the regional needs in terms of, and I'm just making this up on the fly, and I know Amanda's looking at me like, where are you going with this? So, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but on the fly, I would say that direct to, you know, to communicate with the board members and the committee members with respect to this process, with a purview of gaining the insight that we need to convene a regional meeting of all partners, stakeholders, key partners and stakeholders to be held in the capital region at a date to be specified in the future.
Well, that sounds good to me. Does anybody got anything to add to that?
No, that sounds good.
Everybody's in consensus, it sounds like, so I guess that's the path forward for us.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
Okay,
that sounds reasonable to me too, I think.
okay, great. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about this and before we move to adjourn? Looks like it's pretty quiet again. So I'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair. Greg Erickson, City of Fredericton.
Seconder.
I'll second Susan from Amwell.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, and thank you for your
Thank you.
patience, our CEO. So appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great
Thank
meeting.
you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. I think it was very